Star Wars is scaling back and scaling down. It's sure to put a frown on the very few fans that remain. Dave Filoni has decided what the script will be for the Mandalorian movie. And folks, we're here to tell you it is not looking good indeed. Small in scope, small in stature, and perhaps copying the Moana 2 strategy, minus the billion-dollar opportunity at the box office. We'll tell you why this looks more like an episode of Clone Wars than an actual film. Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Pro Channel. Oh boy, what a joy it is to spend time with you, coming to you from somewhere sunny USA. Folks, we are happy to report to you that entertainment is getting better. It's on the way, but first, we must flush out the stuff that, well, companies like Disney thought we would love. And in this case, it's giving us a B-roll, B-tier kind of character for a villain. And then we're on the task of saving a character whose literal name refers to the fact that he's stinky and smelly. If that sounds like a kid's cartoon show, well, that's because the Mandalorian movie just might be based on the exact same thing. Let's bring on the panel. Lauren Connor is here with us, Kevin Apollo, and more. Here we go. This is the one I've been waiting on. Take a look, folks. This one, and I just want to give a heads up. If you've been on the WDW Pro Patreon, 2 days ago, we talked about how we were hearing from our sources that a crisis team had been brought on. And if we get a chance, Jonas, I don't know if Lou is going to be able to make it tonight. He had some thoughts on that crisis team, and I'd love to get his thoughts if he makes it in.
He's got the link if he wants it.
It's a late evening, I understand. But so we talked about a crisis team, and literally within 12 hours, we were not ready to talk about this on the channel. We still aren't. I mean, we still have a lot of work to do, a lot of investigative work before we can talk about this crisis team and what it is and where it comes from. A lot of work to do. So, but we put it on the Patreon, and 12 hours later, this stuff starts leaking out. And I just thought, isn't that something? Isn't that something? So let me read this, and then Lauren, man, do I have a lot to ask you about this. As we do this one, folks, I just want to remind you that, and panel, you can correct me if I'm making this up. You tell me I'm just a liar, and we'll fix it. But we, for a long time, have said that in this Mandalorian movie, they have to have a way to get the audience to go see the film. And so they were going to put Luke and Leia and Han together. Well, we're hearing that now. I mean, we're hearing that very strongly now that that's likely to happen. So with that in mind, that they're finally going to give you the trio, apparently, allegedly, there in the Millennium Falcon, just like you've always wanted. Here's the article. Bespin Bulletin has it. January 13th, Embo to features the main villain in Star Wars, the Mandalorian and Grogu. And there you can see Embo over there. He looks like some sort of, what would you say, steampunk Kung Lao from Mortal Kombat. That's what he looks like. Mm-hmm. And if we said Embo is going to be the new main villain and you said, who-oh? Well, we don't blame you because it surely is a deep cut. You thought it was going to be Thrawn? Think again. Another day and another scoop I was working on has appeared via another individual or outlet. When you snooze, you lose. You know, who's the author over here? Just Bespin. We'll find out later. I think it's just one guy who does Bespin. And I feel sorry for him, you know, if somebody else got this. Christian Harloff has exclusively broke today via his YouTube show that Embo, the bounty hunter that was previously featured in the Star Wars animated series Clone Wars, can't believe Filoni with another character, I can't believe it, is due to appear in the next live-action Star Wars theatrical release, The Mandalorian and Grogu, and is being voiced by Dave Filoni.
Oh, wait. Embo is voiced by Dave Filoni?
Yes, he also voices
Chopper.
Yes, Chopper, and why can't I think of his name right now? Plo Koon.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a theatrical release.
I didn't realize he was Plo Koon as well. Well,
I think he is. Wait a minute. I may have him mixed up. Hang on a second. Let me double check that.
This is a theatrical release. Like Dave, you don't get Dave Filoni to voice never mind. We'll just keep on going. We'll just keep that. I mean, they hired Leslie Headland.
Sorry, I got that wrong. Plo Koon was James Arnold
James
Taylor. He
Arnold
voiced him
Taylor,
as
yeah.
as well
Kick
as
him out.
Obi-Wan.
Kick him out. He doesn't know anything about Star Wars. Kick him out. After a couple of busy days, the author over here at the Bespin was writing up an exclusive report that was due to release tomorrow that Embo would feature in The Mandalorian and Grogu as a villain. Again, the author was told of Embo's involvement in the feature film around the festive period, along with a handful of other details about the film. You know, that's a way of just saying Christmas without saying Christmas. You could just say Christmas or Hanukkah, whatever you want to say, but the festive period, that's a long way of saying just what we all, normally would say in normal English. Anyway, Harloff revealed that, and this is where it keeps getting better. You know what? No. That's not how we do this show. We're stopping there for a moment. We'll get to the rest. Folks, this is, oh my gosh, what a great story. This just gives and gives. Before we go any farther with this, Lorne, tell us, who is Embo? Is this like a really bad Lion King character that somehow escaped to Star Wars? Who is he? And is Dave Filoni the right guy to play the villain in the next Star Wars theatrical release?
Well, he's a bounty hunter, and he's a minor character, but he's a fun character. He showed up in several episodes of the Clone Wars. My favorite was a tribute to the Seven Samurai, which, was a huge influence on George Lucas and Star Wars, and so they did a little tribute there. They did a similar tribute in The Mandalorian. They kind of rehashed the plot and redid the episode. Embo doesn't speak basic, so if you have Dave Filoni voicing him, it will be alien gibberish. So I don't think it'll really it'll bother people in that way.
I can't
But
wait for a villain that only speaks in subtitles.
it's bizarre. It is bizarre to make him the villain of this thing, because he's a bounty hunter. He's neutral. He's not really a villain. He's just a guy for hire. And I think Embo, while he's a minor character, he's got his fans, and he's not generally looked at as a bad guy. Obviously, the people that are bankrolling him are going to be the real villains here, but it feels weird to put him in the villain position.
So what you're saying is Embo only pawn in Game of Life.
Sure.
Embo away. Nolan, every time Filoni steps in this, I feel like the scope and scale of whatever he's doing just kind of shrinks. I think there's a Star Wars shrinkage problem. Could you talk to us a little bit about Dave Filoni's Star Wars shrinkage problem?
Well, I'm not a doctor, but I can give my opinion on where things seem like they're going. He's kind of... I like the idea. I like the concept they're going with here. I don't think it's a problem of, kind of narrowing the view to go with a villain they've done in the past before, as opposed to creating a brand new villain. Because I'm a sucker for the whole idea of, hey, let's take an obscure villain, let's make them awesome. Anyone who saw, like, say, for example, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the Spot was routinely seen as like a joke Spider-Man villain, and they actually did something quite threatening and actually did something really creative with the idea. So I think kind of narrowing the view on that could actually really work if they can write it well. But as we saw with like Ahsoka, we don't know if they're really in the best hands here. I like the idea of having Filoni voice this, because I think we're starting to get a better grip on, in Lucasfilm, who the true villains are. In fact, if they wanted to have Kathleen Kennedy voice somebody, I think that'd be quite realistic. I'd take it.
She could literally just be the villain. That would be something. Her power is demasculinization. Hey, before we go any further, though, I want to bring on another panelist to help us talk through what we're seeing happening with Star Wars. And pure desperation is what we're about to get to. Lou, you and I talked yesterday, the day before, I don't remember, but we talked about this crisis team because I was asking you in background about what you thought that would be, because it's a little nebulous for us and we're trying to investigate it. It's still rumor and speculation territory. But Lou, given what we're finding out now about the Mandalorian Grogu movie, where it is definitely not at the scale we thought in terms of the villainy, what do you think what does it say to you when you hear crisis team with your work in Hollywood and your career? Like, what do you think that might be?
Well, the first thing is they named it wrong. That's bad PR. crisis, anything implies fear. And we know Bob has none, right? But maybe somebody's waking up.
Here we go. Let's go back for a moment to the article, though, telling us what's going to happen in this Mandalorian Grogu movie, where we thought, surely, that this would be the beginning of a trilogy, a Thrawn trilogy. Apparently not. Harloff revealed that Rhoda, Lauren, how do we say it?
I'd say Rhoda.
Rhoda the Hutt plays a prominent role in the movie.
Although they called him Stinky.
Just stop, man. Come on.
I'm not kidding. That was his gimmick in this Clone Wars movie. He farted a lot.
Yeah, Anakin called him Stinky.
I forgot about that.
I can't do this anymore.
Stop it. Get some help.
All right. Okay, so the adventure we're going on that's supposed to save Star Wars. Let's all remember. We haven't had a Star Wars movie in years and years. And this is a Jon Favreau movie that is a season 4 changed into a full-blown theatrical release. And it wasn't good enough for Jon Favreau to be in charge of this. Dave Filoni put Dave Filoni in charge of rejiggering the script. And what Lauren is telling us now is that we're on a quest to save Stinky, the farting Hutt. I get that right?
I can see what's happening.
Also belching.
But they don't have a clue.
All right, let's keep going, folks. I mean, just when you think it can't get worse. Harloff believes that Mando and Grogu are hired to rescue Stinky the Hutt. On the flip side, Embo, the main villain of the story, has been hired to kill Stinky. The details that Harloff has revealed are ones that I, too, was told. This is the author, not me. So the author of Bespin can back up the reporting, not that he needs it. And the author says, I'll add that I believe that Embo Iwe is hired by some Hutts, possibly the two featured in the book of Boba Fett. Conflicting things were heard on who hired Mando, and once was told that it was the Hutts that hire Mando, another time it was the Republic. Okay. All right, so that's where we are right now with this. And they stopped there. But I just want to remind folks, this is out there, and if anybody on the panel wants to grab this, I don't know if we can find it quickly enough to get it in the show, but there are people now reporting what we've been saying for more than a year, which is that Luke, Leia, and Han will be brought back for this, for a little CGI cameo. And what I think that they're failing to recognize is we wanted Luke, Leia, and Han to be together, but if they're there to shoot a laser and save the day for 5 seconds so that Mando can rescue Stinky, I just got to think that's not exactly what people had envisioned.
Well, then let me suggest that bringing them back for that is kind of analogous to we're getting the gang back together at the end of Picard with the Enterprise crew all joining up on the old ship. So maybe they got their cue from that, saying it worked for them. Maybe we'll try it. I don't know. It's like
getting the gang back together. You know, it's like getting, I'm trying to think of who would, it's like getting the Beatles back together somehow. You know, you managed to bring them all back together to play kazoos at a birthday party. It's not what you wanted.
It's not even that cool. It would honestly be a bit of a cop-out because we got to face the reality is that Carrie Fisher has passed on, and we've seen a lot of this kind of concept with those AI videos all over YouTube. I could probably find 12 of them right now of like what the sequels could have looked like. If they already have to CGI one of them and Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill are just relegated to cockpit of the Millennium Falcon or something like that, is that really going to make anyone that excited?
Especially if they shoot it at the park. In the ride.
They'll have to trim the trees too.
That are literally growing on the props.
No, I mean for the cockpit. You know, why build a set when you've got a bad fake already ready to go?
Man, it's a good point. It's a good point. Save some money on this thing. All right. So who wants to play devil's advocate here? And maybe you don't have to play too hard. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Who here would like to be in defense of Filoni at this point? Anybody? Any takers on this? Anyone saying to themselves, well, you know, Embo and Stinky, they might be just what we need to revivify Star Wars.
No, to be fair, he probably designed this as if it was just another extension of something that he already worked on. And he's really good at making animated shows that are intended for a childlike audience that sometimes flirt with the nostalgia that grown-ups feel about I'm sorry, I just can't do this. He's really kind of stunted as a director, and putting him in something for grown-ups, to work on something for grown-ups, he really struggles when he has to play in the big leagues here. So I get the feeling that this is not enough Favreau and a little too much Filoni.
From Star Wars Theory, apparently the big plot of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie is all about Mando and Grogu rescuing Stinky against Embo Iwe, who wants to kill Stinky. And folks,
The first question that comes to mind is, do we care?
No, that's the problem here. No, this on the right. This is Stinky. This is the belching, farting hut that Star Wars success, the resurrection of Star Wars hinges on people caring about that little stinkworm over there.
And buying plushies.
We did kind of talk about this in the back a little bit before we started. We don't know what kind of age he's going to be at this point. If this is taking place, say, roughly after season 3 of The Mandalorian, then from the time of the Clone Wars, you've got several years that have passed. Now, Hutts can live to be an extremely old age, but I think they age at a normal rate. I think that they are not like baby Grogu, so we're likely dealing with an adult Hutt at this point, and that might change the tone.
It'll be really awkward if Ahsoka tries to carry him on like a backpack again, like a full-size Hutt. That would be really bad.
for Ahsoka's back, certainly.
The
Hutt that broke Ahsoka's back. There you go.
So we recently talked about in Ahsoka season 2, the rumor is that they're going to be bringing back Ewan McGregor. They're going to bring back Hayden. We might get a flashback battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan. And this seems to me like they're throwing everything they have at this, and they don't have much apparently. So I hope I'm wrong. Like, this is so bad that it's embarrassing. So I hope that this is not the Mandalorian script. I hope this is a false script that they've thrown out there to throw people off the trail. And that's possible. Like, I want to be wrong. Everybody listening to this, in case there's egg on our face in the future and the Mando movie is nothing about this, I hope I'm wrong. Because this is actually, well, it's stinky itself. And nobody's, so far, Lauren, you're usually the one who opts in and says, well, actually, what they could do. And not even you right now are jumping in to say, well, you know, Stinky has some likable qualities to him that we could go with.
Redeeming social value?
I mean, maybe if it was Zorba the Hutt.
Rada was always a mistake. Rada never should have been in the continuity, period. And as others in the chat have mentioned, a big part of the problem if this is the script is it's essentially a rehash of the 2008 Clone Wars movie, which itself was not terribly popular.
Who was the director on the Star Wars The Clone Wars movie in 2008?
Gosh, I wonder. And as other people have mentioned, that was just a bunch of Clone Wars episodes that were edited together. So it was never really...
Go ahead, it was Zorba the Hutt, maybe there's a product placement tie-in deal with Chick-fil-A because it's never on Sunday.
Here's where we're going to go, panel. And I'm going to shut up and let you all talk because you all have such spectacular thoughts, and the audience deserves to get to hear those. Moana 2 is a Disney Plus show. That they took the first episode and the last episode, and then they took little bits and pieces that they had to from the middle, and they reconfigured the Moana 2 show into a movie. And despite the fact, I think Moana passed 1 billion today, I'll have to double check that, but despite the fact that it's doing decently well based on the goodwill engendered from the first one, not many people think Moana 2 is just spectacular, right? Lorena, for example, gave it a 2 out of 10. I gave it what'd I give it, Jonas? A 4 out of 10? I think I was nice.
Yeah. Speaking of which, if you are in the single-digit age range, you might be the kind of person who thinks Moana 2 is a good movie.
Yeah.
But if you take out of the equation the fact that they saved themselves on the budget side of Disney Plus by taking it out of there, and if you throw in that it made pretty good money this way, net, I think it's a gain to them. Do I think it's a prestigious gain or a greatly creative gain? No, but net, it was probably the right decision. So
Lou, you're exactly right. However, that's a short-term versus long-term calculation. So
sure.
Do I think that the Moana 2 live action now will do as well as it would have if there had been a really strong Moana 2 movie for it to launch pad off of? And the answer to that is no. I think the franchise is diminished now. Now, here's what I want to make the comparison to. Moana 2 is a very small scope film in comparison to the first. When we heard about the Mandalorian and Grogu movie and that it was season 4 retrofitted into a theatrical release, we at least thought this was going to be part of a Thrawn trilogy. Now, of course, we're finding out that no, it's the journey to save Stinky. And that seems to me, based on season 3 of The Mandalorian, well, that's 100%. I mean, I'm surprised Lizzo isn't playing Stinky this time, and she might be.
Well,
so
she's already the weird princess from the 3rd season of The Mandalorian.
Well, it's they're easily confused. Anyway, I don't want to be mean to Lizzo. The scope and scale of this seems appropriate for season 4, having been very, very small and more in line with season 3 than the first 2. So, my Moana 2 question is, do you all think that perhaps we're going to get a greatly diminished Mandalorian movie in that same vein? And do you think that it's good for Star Wars to get a movie out? Or do you think having a small scale film actually hurts them? Which way does this go, do you think?
I think as far as Moana, it remains to be seen, because do we know much about the plot or what's going on in that movie? But as far as Star Wars, it's definitely a step down. There's no doubt.
You will have gone at that point, 7 years between releases? It's the first Star Wars movie in a very long time. People are going to be expecting something big from it. And if it is basically just Mando season 4 condensed down to a 2-hour movie, I think it's going to be a huge embarrassment to them.
I think because you can't ignore that it's been 7 years since the last release. The last release was an epic failure beyond all measures. You can't ignore that TV has also failed. There hasn't been a show that was universally praised. I think Ahsoka is the closest thing you got to it, and the praise was middling at best. Andor, sure, but it wasn't a rousing success. And then before this movie comes out, you still have to deal with the backlash and now apathy that came from the Acolyte. And although Skeleton Crew was adorable, it did nothing for the brand. It's gone ignored. So if you're not coming out big and bold, and by big and bold, I mean you have to promise me that I'm going to see Luke Skywalker kicking butt. I'm going to get Han, I'm going to get Chewie, and I may get a cameo from Leia. And at this point, I would tell you, if you don't have Boba Fett in this movie, I don't know what you're doing, because people want to see Boba Fett be redeemed.
So I want to jump off of that for a second, because somebody in the comments made an interesting comment a while back asking if Boba Fett is the new daimyo of Mos Eisley and the surrounding region, why does Rada matter? And shouldn't he have inherited the crime empire from Jabba the Hutt?
That's a good point.
Maybe that's the angle. Maybe what this is that somebody is trying to now go against Boba Fett by bringing Rada out and saying this is the actual true heir to the crime empire, and that's what gets a hit put on him by the Hutts or somebody else. And that means that Boba Fett now does have to get involved, and maybe we get to badass Boba. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. But that's one way maybe you could make this into something interesting. I think that Rada should not be a baby anymore. You should have a full-blown adult Hutt scheming and trying to retake control of Tatooine. Then maybe you get some kind of movement.
Well,
this is all part of the show where you're reminded that Lorne should be in charge of Lucasfilm, but isn't.
You know who I think it
Morrison
should be?
has been. Sorry, Joe. Tamora Morrison has been very vocal about the fact that he has not been contacted. He could be lying. He could be pulling an Andrew Garfield, but I mean, he has been very, very vocal about the fact that he has nothing to do with anything Star Wars. Jonas, I'm sorry.
I'm going to change my comment based off of what you said. His language was super specific, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something to the effect of, I'm not playing that particular character or something like that. It was something that I think he left the door open on purpose. Now, there is a hut that Dave Filoni probably created, because he is from the Clone Wars, that I think we're all forgetting about, and that is the
Look at Lord before you do it. Look at Lord.
Are we talking about Gargola?
We don't talk about Truman Capote Hut. Ah!
Didn't he die?
What about the Zero the Hut?
Didn't he die? He died.
Who cares?
He died. Yes, he
Did he?
died.
Okay.
No
But
one's
you
ever-
reminded me of him.
They live on in your heart, Lauren.
I was
King
thinking
Herod
Pizza
died.
Hut.
King Herod-
That's how out of this I am, I tell you.
Or in the
King-
case of
King
Prada, they
Herod
live
the
on
Hut.
in your heart.
I just wanted to throw that out there just to disgust all the people who were aware of
There
it.
is a hut in Tatooine.
Ah!
It's known as the Rising Figgy. Anyway, I don't know.
I love the fact that we're going to revive Star Wars, maybe. Like, not with Luke, not with Chewie, heck, not even with Rey, with a character whose name is literally a reference to the fact that they stink. Rata. And put another one in the can, folks. A video of excellence has been birthed into existence, and you were there to witness it. Thank you for participating. We hope you had a good time. Folks, it's a great time anytime we get to share time with you, and we mean it. The only thing additional we ask, on the way out the door, consider clicking the like button. Share, subscribe, click it and stick it to those pesky algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. And oh, by the way, if you would be so kind, perhaps share this out on your favorite social media platforms. Folks, we've got all kinds of content coming your way. If you are interested in going even beyond all of that, well, there's a Pro Store, and you can always find those items directly below the video you're watching. The Pro Store, it's a cool place to check out for items that, well, definitely Disney and the rest are not going to sell you, but we're happy to do so. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.